The film that I'm going to show you was made exactly 25 years ago. The EDSC had begun to work in May 1949, and we had developed a system of programming based on the use of a library of subroutines. The film was made for the first joint computer conference held in Philadelphia in December 1951, and it was, I think, the first film showing the operation of a stored program computer to be made. Like all good amateur movies, this one tells a story. The parts were acted by members of the laboratory. I myself was mainly responsible for the scenario, and Eric Mudge, who appears briefly in the first scene, acted as the director. The film opens with Sandy Douglas, who played the part of a mathematician, explaining a problem to a committee of experts. The committee proceed to discuss how the problem should be programmed. In particular, which subroutines from the library would be used. Subroutines are a recurring theme, and in retrospect, the film might almost be taken as a commercial for subroutines. The problem is handed over to Stanley Gill, who played the part of a programmer. After it had been checked, it was punched onto paper tape and in due course run on the computer. While it is being run, we are shown a number of shots of the EDSC, including some of the store monitor. Since these go rather quickly, I would like to give you some explanation in advance. The EDSC made use of a serial ultrasonic store, consisting of 32 tanks, as we used to call them, each holding 16 words. It was possible to exhibit the contents of the memory on a cathode ray tube, like this. There are 16 lines, one line for each word. The presence of a 1 is indicated by a bright dot, and the presence of a 0 is indicated by the absence of a dot. An instruction occupied half a word, and at one point in the film you will see a program tape being read and the instructions filling up one of the tanks from the bottom. An instruction consisted of several characters, each punched as a row of holes on the tape. The rows were read under the control of the initial input routine, and the instruction built up in its binary form. This included the conversion of the address from decimal to binary. You will not actually see this happening since it takes place in one of the other tanks. What you will see is the instructions going into their final place in the store. I hope that this old film will give you some idea of what computing was like in 1951. I will try and give you a commentary as we go along. The mathematician explains his problem to a committee of experts. The first thing to do is to make a list of the library subroutines that will be needed. A subroutine for quadrature, one for the exponential function. A member of the committee interrupts to point out that there is a more suitable exponential routine available. A read routine and a print routine. The committee proceeds to discuss the programming of the problem. The programmer gets to work referring to the library catalog as required. Here is the program sheet. The program is now checked and it is ready for punching. This is Margaret Hartree, who was my secretary at the time. She is in the course of punching the tape, and at the appropriate moment she will go over to get one of the library tapes. This she copies mechanically onto the tape that she is preparing. The recommended practice, not always followed, was for a program tape to be punched twice and the resulting tapes to be compared mechanically. She finishes off the tape and takes it over to a comparator to compare it with the other tape. As long as the two tapes are identical, the comparator runs, but if there were a discrepancy, it would stop. She takes the tape to the computer room, attaches a tape ticket, and puts it on the job queue. Meanwhile, the EDSC is running on some other problem, and the operator is waiting for the results to come out. Output was not quite as voluminous in those days as it is now. She puts it in the rack, takes our program tape, and puts it in the photoelectric tape reader. The instructions are being read and going into the store. The next tank. Now numbers are being read, and here you see the numbers in the store changing as the calculation proceeds. These are all short numbers occupying half a word. While the program is running, we are shown some shots of the EDSC. The storage tanks are in a thermostatically controlled oven. Panels showing some of the vacuum tubes. Back of panel wiring. A shot from above. The results are now coming out. This is one of the other programmers coming in for her results, but she must have made a mistake. We used to use for debugging a trace routine that would print the function letter of each instruction as it was executed. Our programmer collects his results. He is joined by the mathematician, and apparently all is well.